Ho ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I am Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head, and finally, Takumi has a D-sword. He's just pulled it out of the thin air like he was going to, I don't know, 25 episodes ago and he failed to. But now he has it and he's already killed someone with it, I think. Let's carry on and see. So without looking at him even one more time, I headed for the second one. Below O-Front. Once again, the obstacles leading up to it began to disappear and a path was built. The man who stood there was extremely thin, wore a checkerboard shirt and a pair of jeans. He had long hair and his skin was alarmingly pale. He seemed to be holding a bag, which he was treating with great care. Noticing me, he tried to blend into the crowd. But before he could do anything, I threw my D-sword. Smash. Fly. I formed a delusion. Ignoring all known laws of physics, it flew parallel to the ground, soaring faster and faster. It delicately corrected its path, then pierced the man's bag with unmatched accuracy. It emitted a faint light, and the man fell to the ground. Just one more. I approached the man now on the ground and retrieved my D-sword. The third one was in front of Ichiko. I had seen that porter countless times by now. Actually, let me be more precise. I had talked to them almost every day. The crowd dissipated and for the third time a direct path appeared. At the end of it was a woman wearing white scrubs, a fact that made her conspicuous as could be. You're the last one. Hazuki-san. No. Grim. She's Grim. The nurse who'd smiled so gently to me at the hospital was now glaring daggers at me. She had a large handbag with her. Most likely there was a Noah 2nd terminal inside. Noah the 2nd. Reveal the truth. If you show all these people what she did... Oh, this is, what, Shogun? This favor-like chaos will subside. What she did. If she is Grim, you should have noticed the unnatural action she's taken before now. Think back to the first time I made contact with you. I showed you a prediction of the crucifixion case. It was meant to be a wake-up call for you. But there was someone else. Someone who predicted the crucifixion before me. Oh yeah, in her drawings. I remembered. I remembered the exchange we'd had at the time. A few moments before Shogun talked to me for the first time, Grim had left the chat room, but right before that they posted an image as a joke. A drawing, oh right. It was that. The very same drawing that Hazuki-san had scribbled on the medical chart. The drawing had been very poorly done, but what mattered was what it was depicting. It was depicting the crucifixion case. Besides, the first time Grim had talked to me about the New Gen case, they'd said this. It's all up in your neighborhood, lol. Even though I'd never told them I lived in Shibuya. Even a few hours earlier, Grim had left some comments that had made it seem like they knew I was Nishijo Takumi. You're a celebrity, so you'll be the center of attention. The second time I'd gone to hospital, Hazuki-san had said, I'm afraid Dr. Takashino is no longer here. And a week later, Dr. Takashina's corpse had been found. I swallowed back my saliva. Is she the real killer? Her mind was right before me. If I looked inward, I could see. Oh, here we go. May the divine light save us. I don't know who's talking right now. Midnight. Fell on AH Tokyo General Hospital, the place of Hazuki Shino's work. Within one of its operating rooms, the nurse stood very still. Almost nearly still. On the bed lay a young man, Kanoe Chizuo. The sleeping pills he'd been given had induced a deep coma in him. I'm guessing this is her? May the divine light save us. Ah, there we go. As she repeated the same words, over and over like a Buddhist prayer, Hazuki caressed her large, swollen abdomen. Oh, she's pregnant. She slowly removed her white scrubs, then sat atop the operating table, scalpel in hand. A swollen abdomen. What is she doing? Ha! Ha! Salvation! Then, with no anesthesia to speak of, she incised her own abdomen. Okay. An incision so masterfully done, it would have earned her incredible praise from surgeons and obstetricians. How would you say that? Obstetricians? Alike. Although she was a mere nurse, her surgical skills were quite remarkable, even while enduring the uninhibited pain of her self-surgery. The incision she made in her abdomen was performed with utmost dexterity. Blood and amniotic fluid flowed from the wound. Her face contorted in pain. Then, after a few grueling moments passed, Hazuki inserted her own hand inside her abdomen. And from within her, she removed a blood-stained fetus. The fetus had yet to reach full maturity, and its forced removal had already ended its life prematurely. Hazuki performed an omphallotomy, cutting the umbilical cord. Upon completion of this, she embraced her child lovingly, then placed it on the stand next to the operating table. With her hands now free, she began suturing her wound. Suturing? Is that how you pronounce that? I'm going to have to fact check myself on some things. Suturing. Oh, I love this guy.
Stay tuned to the channel to learn more. Suturing.
Suturing. Here we go. Suturing. Okay. Then place it on the stand next to her. Yeah. With her hands now free, she began suturing her wound. The whole ordeal took nearly an hour to complete. With the sheer amount of pain the procedure procured, any normal person would have fainted a long time ago. Returning the fetus to her embrace, she stood up from the operating table and approached the man lying down on the bed. Yeah, why was the man there? And who was the man? With bloodshot eyes, she looked down toward the unconscious man's face and thrust the scalpel into his abdomen. The movement was reckless and without care, providing a vast contrast to how delicately and accurately she'd torn open her own abdomen before. The pain roused the man, but before he could consider any hope of escape, he realized both his arms and legs were tied securely to the bed. Disregarding the man's screams, Hazuki drew back the scalpel she'd used to stab him. It cut through his flesh, tore through his skin, blood gushed forth, covering his face in crimson. This is gross. May the divine light save you, sir. She neared her hands to the victim's wound, and then she forcibly began to widen it horizontally. The sound of flesh being torn open echoed throughout the operating room. The man's body started violently convulsing as the pain forced him to undergo a cycle of fainting, then waking up again. As she gazed at the gaping wound, Hazuki smiled a gentle smile. She then took her own child, which she'd just taken from herself, and forcibly pushed it inside the man's gaping wound. Ugh, I don't like that noise. Ugh. May the divine light save us. midnight fell on AH Tokyo General Hospital, the place of Hazuki Shono's work. Within one of its operating rooms, the nurse stood nearly still. On the bed lay her psychiatric colleague, Takashina Fumio. He was tied to the bed, but this was not the only thing that had been done to him. His cranium had been opened and his brain was exposed. His skull had been cut cleanly, the line being right above the eyes. May the divine light save you, Dr. Takashina. Hazuki-kun, stop this. Whatever you're doing, stop. Takashina was conscious. Due to the effects of the anesthesia, he did not feel any pain from the cut. The utter dread he felt kept his eyes wide open wide, and his body was sweating greatly. Oh, that's her. Salvation. Ignoring Takashina's pleas for his life, Hazuki retrieved a shiny silver utensil from the pocket of her white scrubs. A utensil that could not be referred to as a traditional surgical tool. It was a spoon, an all too ordinary piece of tableware. What do you plan to do with that? Stop this. Stop. Hazuki reveled in ecstasy. As if enjoying a meal of curry and rice, she took a spoonful of Takashina's brain. She then took the spoon and violently cast the contents into a stainless steel tray. The pink brain tissue was pulped into a jelly-esque substance. Hazuki thrusted the spoon inside the brain once again. This time, however, she accumulated even more matter than she had the first time as she scraped away the brain tissue. Takashina's own brain was getting removed from his body, yet he felt no pain, nor did he lose consciousness. As well as this, the anesthesia had robbed him of any freedom of movement whatsoever. All the man could do was tremble in fear. Okay, well that's graphic. Those were your memories, weren't they? Hazuki Shino looked up at the projection in shock. On the scramble crossings, 4 massive jumbotrons. Her very own memories were being shown. She couldn't even understand how it was being done. Perhaps it was Nishijo Takumi's power as a giglomaniac. Your memories. With his head hung low and D-sword in hand, Nishijo Takumi murmured those words. The riot came to a halt. Silence was now the ruling entity. Thousands of people who'd been assailing each other until only a moment ago were now looking up toward the screens. Some went pale, some averted their eyes, some felt such horror it compelled them to vomit. The mass media was starting to record Hazuki with their cameras. Countless blinding flashes ensued. It was you. You were the culprit behind New Gen. You projected my memories as image data. There's nowhere to run. A DNA test on both of you and the fetus will reveal everything. We've got her. Why did you do it? Tell me. Grim. Neidhart. Because the glorious founder ordered it so. Hazuki plunged her hand into the bag, resting over her shoulder. From it, she retrieved both a Noah the Second terminal port and a scalpel. She gripped the scalpel and placed it right against her throat. Due to the nature of her position as a nurse, she knew the location of the carotid artery all too well. Carotid? Carotid. Uh-oh. Hazuki smiled at Nishijo Takumi. It was a kind smile, much like the one she would so oft show her patients. May the divine light save us. And then she was gone. As her own blood gushed forward from her neck, her entire body was painted a bright crimson. Okay, well, end of story, right? We got the killer. He's a real Esper. He's the Messiah. I didn't know who, but someone had mumbled those words. After seeing the sheer number of gazes piercing through me, I realized that those words were also directed at me. In front of a countless number of people, Hazuki Shino had committed suicide via slitting of throat. Although calling it a martyrdom might have been more accurate, the choking smell of blood filled the air. The riot had now entirely stopped. Hazuki Shino's memories of the crimes she'd committed, which I'd projected directly onto the Jumbotrons, ended up being the perfect thing to make the excited parts of the mob quiet down. The shocking nature of what had been displayed left everyone at a loss for words. Even now, Hazuki Shino's corpse was still bleeding. A number of people then walked up to it and began kicking it. Oh, great. It was the corpse of an atrocious murder, so there were no respects to be paid here. Next, they might even publicly behead her like it was the Middle Ages. What difference was there between her and the ones kicking her corpse? By their very nature, humans were disgusting, horrible creatures, myself included. The media, like hyenas, were accumulating around anything that could act as a scoop. Roughly half of them had gathered around Hazuki Shino's corpse, and the other half were surrounding me. Nishijou-kun, talk about a sight to behold. Was that some kind of psychic power just now? So you really were an Esper? That's incredible. Was today's gathering simply bait to lure out the true culprit from the get-go? How old were you when the psychic abilities first manifested? What was your nickname as a child? Have you ever been referred to as a prodigy, or anything along those lines? Do you plan to assist the police with their investigation? Would you be willing to appear on one of our shows? One after the other, endless words of praise were thrown my way. Well done, Nishijou! Ah! Takumi-kun, look over here! You're incredible. I love you. Please go out with me. One after the other, endless words of affection were thrown my way. I felt hollow, hearing those voices, a fabricated image formed by public opinion and a delusionary being. They weren't all too different, were they? Takumi! 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 It was all coming back. The energy they'd all shown when they'd seen me on top of Front. Shut the fuck up! Unable to take it anymore, I screamed. So now you're doing a complete 180 and calling me a hero. Are you fucking kidding me? Tears started flowing. I felt completely miserable. I felt completely ridiculous. I didn't have it in me to keep going without crying. I wasn't a hero. I'm an otaku freak. I spent entire days fapping over Serotan's sexy figures like a goddamn pervert. I'm not 18, but I play a shit ton of Eroge. I'm over sprites and CGs constantly. And in my head, all I ever think about are sexy delusions. I see a woman walking down the street, I imagine the whore naked. That's who I really am! Tears and mucus smeared down my face. I forgot I was being broadcasted live across the entire country. It didn't even occur to me that I was shaming myself yet again. I couldn't help it. I was physically incapable of reading the room. So, still want to call me a hero? Because I'm not. I'm just a lazy-ass, delusionary, otaku freak. A useless loser who can't do anything on his own. The voices around me went quiet. The onlookers sank into silence. The people from the media looked at me dubiously. Within the heart of Shibuya, in the middle of the humongous scramble crossing, only my voice was echoing. Am I finally feeling sorry for Takumi? That's who I am. I won't let other people like you decide who I am. I'll decide what I really am. I'm not your toy. I'm not some circus freak. I have shit to do. I'm not here to do whatever you want me to. Grimy's smile appeared in my mind. I'm just here. For the sake of those I cared about. I was here to fight, then disappear. But before I could voice that, I suddenly noticed that the night sky reflected in the corner of my eye was turning pure white. It wasn't a cloud, nor was it snow falling a little too early in the year. By the time I realized it was the same phenomenon from back when the earthquake had hit, it was already too late. The third melt, but it's too early. Was that Takumi or Shogun? The first thing I felt was the very earth itself beginning to rumble. The ground began to shake. The white in the sky was spreading farther and farther. The very next moment, I was struck with a violent ringing in my ears. It was such an intensely shrill, resonant sound. My head felt like it was about to burst open. Everyone else around me was covering their ears too. And then... the world was dyed completely white. Finished chapter 9, Giglomaniac. Silent sky, okay. I was standing atop a body of water. Incredibly clear, transparent water. My name was Jesus. You're probably wondering how I got here. It was shallow, reaching only my ankles, but it was not cold. Intermittently, the waves whispered in my ears. I was tightly grasping the handles of a wheelchair. Shogun. No, the real Nishijo Takumi was right before me, his head adorned with his knitted cap. He sat ever so slightly hunched forward in his wheelchair. There wasn't a single thing surrounding us. Neither shells buried in the sand, nor seabirds elegantly soaring through the sky. Nothing so expressly emulative of the sea could be seen. There were no signs of life. Only the blue sea and the crystal clear sky. The terrain was completely flat, all around me, with the horizon stretching as far as the eye could see. This place was not the real world. Before long, I will be dead. Together with the sound of breaking waves, I heard Shogun's voice. From where I was standing, I couldn't see his expression. The tone of his voice didn't carry any particular feeling of lamentation? Is that how you would... I mean, I know you lament. Lamentation. In reality, his voice, his words felt like they were simply casual passing remarks. If you look at this body of mine, I think you'll understand. Small, wrinkled and withered away, all of his hair had fallen out. It's an illness from within. It first began at the age of 10, when my physical development halted. And then I aged. Was he aging prematurely? That illness was supposed to be rare, affecting only 1 out of every 8 million people. It started when you were 10. A gruesome scene etched into my memories began to rise to the surface. It was about 3 months before that bus accident. That was the onset. The bus accident? Did you... I'm not truly sure. At the time, I still wasn't fully aware of my powers. Long before the onset of my illness, for as long as I could remember, I was able to use the powers of a giglomaniac. I believed it to be normal. Whether consciously or unconsciously, I repeatedly made use of those powers. And because of this, the contradictions in my existence grew too large. Aoi Senna told you about this, didn't she?
Pair produced in tandem with particles and antiparticles, which stock up in the D-sword. Given, mathematically speaking, the antiparticles are that which approach the past. The larger the amount stocked up, the larger Giglomaniac's gap from their present state. And if not corrected, these contradictions will eventually lead toward one's self-collapse as an existence.
As he spoke, Shogun didn't move an inch in his wheelchair. What was he looking at? Could he even see at all? The more I use my powers, the more this illness progresses. Can't you just heal yourself with the Giglomaniac powers? If I use my powers, the illness progresses. In essence, plus and minus make zero. Nothing changes. Why? Why did you make an otaku freak loser like me? You could have made someone stronger, cooler, better looking. Some proactive alpha, I don't know. Creating a person, and one who can wield the powers of a Giglomaniac, at that, is not such a simple task. Creating you put me into a coma for close to a year. So, what? I'm just incomplete. And that's what makes you so very human. Yeah, you don't have to try and make me feel better. I'm being earnest. I clicked my tongue. I really did hate this guy. Rimi always scolded me for using my powers. She was trying to help you, wasn't she? With that said, I can't obey her warnings. My IR2 was the impetus for the current critical situation. IR2. That strange scribble on the back of my essay. IR2 caught the eye of a certain scientist, and eventually it allowed Nezumi technology to begin their research. That being Project Noah. It is a device which artificially generates the abilities of a Giglomaniac, so to speak. Because I encountered Rimi, I was able to realize their plan. One part of Project Noah was her cruel torture. Noah's system requires code samples to increase its efficiency. They are unique brainwaves emitted by Giglomaniacs in the process of using their powers. To obtain them, the President of Nezumi, Narose, tortured Rimi severely. At a time of intense negative emotions, Giglomaniacs awaken to their powers and acquire their D-sword. Once again, I remembered Senna's words.
As biorhythms climb, the neurons in the midbrain limbic system excessively secrete dopamine, and one's D-sword appears. Depending on the person, this could come from feeling threatened, excited, sad, hateful, or happy. The higher the amount of dopamine secreted, the easier it becomes to observe. That's why you kept coming after me, harassing me. For that.
Yes, to forcefully awaken you. I'm sorry. Remy and I weren't the only ones. There were others who had undergone severe mental or physical torture because of Project Noah. Ayase, Senna, Kozupi, and even Nanami. Cruel trials had been laid out for all of them, all so they could become gigalomaniacs. IR too gave birth to Noah II, and I must stop it by my own hands. But this is the body I have. I can hardly move at all, let alone enough to destroy Noah II. Moreover, Nozomi has targeted me, coveting my own code sample. That was to say nothing of how he was hospitalized at Tokyo General Hospital, a place which had hidden ties to the Nozomi group. That's why I had to go into hiding. Ami-chan, of the Phantom Hospital room. Rumi was the sole person capable of entering it. And because I was no longer able to move about, I... made me.
Oh, made me. Shogun weakly nodded. Every week, he would nod.
Rumi repeatedly told me to erase you. That I should stop. That what I was doing was whittling my life away. But the life I have left isn't much as it is. Whether or not I use my powers makes very little difference now. His voice was deeply serene. He had a certain sense of wiseness to him. Perhaps it was one you could get from living out your days under a death sentence. As well as this, once you awakened and used your powers, my own life could no longer be maintained anyway.
You mean you and I are one?
Yes, in body and soul.
Oh. But you have to promise me one thing. No more delusions.
Ah, that's why. She was trying to save the real me.
Okay? Your delusions are far too strong. The more delusions you have, the more the lifespan of the real you gets whittled away.
I guess she actually did tell me that, just directly.
If I tried to keep my promise to Remy, I couldn't go help her. Even if I could, I wouldn't be able to do a thing. It wouldn't matter what I tried. They'd turn the tables on me in an instant. How much longer do you have?
Presumably until today, perhaps tomorrow.
That soon? I was stunned. I hadn't expected him to have so little time left. Is it because I awakened?
You don't need to worry. Your awakening is exactly what I've been seeking for so long.
If you die, then what happens to me?
You are one with me in body and soul, but at the same time, the fact that you were reel-booted makes you a real human being. Your birth may not have been traditional, but you are still a human being.
If I disappeared, could that save you?
No. The most it could give me is an increase in lifespan, lasting from a few days to a few weeks. But you mustn't choose such a foolish option. I wish for you to destroy Noah II. And I wish for you to have no restraint in using your powers to do so.
You don't have to tell me. I know. I'm not so charitable as to hold back for your sake. Shogun's shoulders shook faintly as he laughed. Making him laugh was the last thing I'd meant to do. So that annoyed me.
I'm so glad you've awakened. As selfish and troublesome as this may sound, I leave the rest to you. Suddenly, the feeling of the wheelchair's handles disappeared. Before I knew it, the wheelchair he was sitting in began to leave me behind. As it moved, it almost seemed to glide across the surface of the water. Its two wheels cut into the water, making waves as they turned. I had no intention of following him. Instead, I absently watched him go. My role here has ended. Wow. That is selfish. You're seriously going to dump it all on me? I'm just a little tired. Let me rest a while. He turned to me from his wheelchair. As usual, I couldn't read his expression, but his voice showed an intense urgency. There's no time. Nerose has moved Noah the Second into a full-scale operation. You need to hurry. Now that it has come to this, Noah the Second must be destroyed directly. I'm counting on you. And then, as if embraced by a cloud of mist, he began to disappear. The very colours of this mental world slowly began to fade. And we'll find out what's going to happen next on Borderline Games next time. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head, and I'll see you next time. Have a great evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.